Fire it up, footballers. And we are back with MenInRed and Jiggly for part 2 of our 2020 Chicago Fire player ratings. Thanks for hopping back on the call here, lads, and thanks for everybody who is listening now live or during or after the fact. Do us a favor, consider subscribing to Spitting Fire YT as we make our way towards 300 and hopefully blast the glass windows off of that sometime soon. And smash that like button if you like what we're doing here. Hit that dislike button if you don't. As always, put your comments in the live chat or put your comments below if you ever feel the need to interject. We always love to hear from you. And thanks for joining us, guys. And so we left off at Alvaro Madran in our last video. Check that out as we tucked into like the first 10 or so players of the Chicago Fire. We got about 10 to 15 here left that we're going to dig into. Starting with the man from Poland, Przemysław Szemik Frankowski. He's rated at a 6, according to these guys. By the way, the article is from ChiSportsNation.com. Link is in the description, as always. Frankie getting a 6. To me, Frankie should get a 5.5. Maybe not a 5, but a 5.5. He was not consistent. He really only found his form in the last few games of the season. He was clueless in front of goal way too many times, despite his 3 goals and 1 assist. I for the pedigree and for what we were hoping from him, I did not see a lot of that. There's maybe stuff to be hopeful about, but there's also some red flags there. What do you think there, guys?
Yeah, I would agree. Now, there was a report, I don't know if this was official, that he got his green card. And if that's the case, my opinion on him changes slightly. Frankowski is, in my head, a high technical, low IQ winger. He's got the speed, he's got the dribbling, but he can't finish. And we saw that, a dozen times throughout the season. I personally feel like Frankowski alone cost us like 6 points, probably. Maybe even more with all those missed opportunities. And simply put, I think your wingers need to have better production than that. So my official, a feeling about Frankowski, he's a fringe MLS starter if he's, super consistent, but I think he would be a really quality, really, really good asset coming off the bench when you need a speedy winger to go in, or if you need, to fill in a couple games. That's especially with a green card, doesn't take up an international spot. We've had him a couple years now. That's not the role I see him, especially, we just signed, Ofori as well, who's an attacker who could play the winger or attack. Winger in general is the one position, like I said earlier, that I think we just need immediate upgrades in on both sides. And Frankowski can still have a role on this team. I just don't think it should be in a starting one.
Yeah, I'll agree with that.
Wow.
I think that's what I was just as a look into how my brain works in just a horrible way. I've just mentally been trying to figure out how I personally grade things by looking at like my list of my anime ratings list. And I just so happen to see a soccer anime at 5. And I think that I'm going to put Frankowski at 5 as well, because it gives me the same exact feeling of you could have been so much more. You could have done so much more. And you just kept missing. And he just wasn't what he was supposed to be. But he's not bad. He just wasn't what he was supposed to be.
Yeah, he wasn't what he was supposed to be, yeah.
And yeah, he came in with like all these expectations of like, oh, we got him as a steal. He could have been a DP, but he wasn't. And like that sort of feeling about him. But at this point, yeah, he is just better as depth. He's better on the bench. I don't know why he keeps getting called up to Poland. Maybe it's because the Fire just aren't working for him.
Well, also, I think the Polish team in general is not as good as people think. But I also think because of that, a lot of people are like, oh, God, this guy's a Polish international. He's going to slot into the starting 11 and produce a lot of, assist and goals for us on that right wing spot. And obviously, he hasn't lived up to those expectations. He still could. Like I said, I truly believe that he has the technical ability to do it. He just makes some questionable decisions and can't finish well. And if you want to be a starting a starting winger in a league like MLS, you need to have high quality winners that can finish the ball in the 18. And until we adequately see Frankowski do that, he's better as an attacking piece off the bench if you need some speed. So I would agree. I think a 5.5 is good for him. He showed signs of being great, but You need better. You need more.
You need a lot more out of him. Nacho Alessada, another player I think we need a lot more out of. Now, this player, unlike Frankowski, this player was settling in this year. Frankowski wasn't settling in last year, and to me, that's an extra knock on Frankowski. But also, he is settling in with a new manager, with Pano being gone and being asked to do different things. That tosses it right back to Frankowski's way. Nacho Alessada did not impress when he first arrived. He also did not impress in practice, per Tyrus. If you want to take a look back at that podcast, he also dropped some great stuff. Tyrus podcast. MenInRed was there for that. But Nacho Aleseda rated at a 5.5. Okay, hear me out before jumping down my throat with this rating. It says the author. Let me check. Reread the author's name. I believe it's Lee Gualano. Great author here. So far, I really liked his ratings. I mean, we've debated him, but haven't taken too much umbrage with them predominantly for the most part. But with Nacho Aleseda, 5.5, he occupies a DP spot, a DP slot. Yes, that's true. And that, not saying he's a bad player or a bust. I would say for a DP slot, he's absolutely a bust. He's 19, has a ton of potential. But what is potential? Tell me in the chat. Perhaps it was a red flag that the coaching staff kept him out of the lineup in the MLS's back tournament. He was extremely hesitant with his offensive decision-making and lazy defensively and provided very little in his games off of the bench. 1 goal and 2 assists and a couple of flashes in 16 games isn't a good output for a DP. With all that said, Aleseda can still turn out to be a good signing if he can take the necessary strides forward next year. Pretty good assessment.
I might be one of the more outspoken people on how much I'm not a fan of Ignacio Aleseda.
Yeah, maybe you're willing to go a little farther. I mean, we're all sitting here on hope.
Yeah.
But hope from based on what?
Take everything I say with a little grain of salt. The kid's 19. He's younger than me, so I can't be like the author said, I'm not going to jump down his throat too hard. I used to criticize him because he's not a tall guy. Strength-wise, he's strong for his height, but he's going to get bullied by those bigger fullbacks and center backs. But then I thought about the history, Diego Rossi and guys like Sebi Giovinco. Granted, they're like elite players in MLS history, but they have success. And they have success because technically they're good on both sides of their feet, like left and right. And that's my thing with Seda is he's extremely predictable. He has no left foot. Absolutely no left foot. He dribbles continuously with his right. He did score once with his left, which I was like, everyone was going at me on Twitter for. But he just needs more. He needs to be able to use that other foot, to be unpredictable. That's what you need your wingers to do. To attack the back line and put their head on a swivel and get them dancing in circles. And I don't think Seda can do that as well as we want him to yet. Now, we know how Heights and Wiki value young players. If they are successfully able to develop him in this next season, the season after, into something quality, maybe he deserves his DP tag. Like I said, he's only 19. He's got a ways to go before we really see what Ignacio Aleseda is all about. But at this point in time, in my opinion, Aleseda is the one DP we have that is not DP worthy. I would be a lot more comfortable with having him on the roster if he was in that TAM role. So yeah, that's the way I look at it. I'm willing to give the guy a break, give him another season. But I think that DP spot could have been given to someone else to help improve the attack significantly quicker.
As a point of just knowledge, when you have MLS allows only 2 designated player slots. Actually, the third you have to pay extra for. You have to pay GAM or whatever. But that third designated player slot is free if they count as a young designated player, which is any player under the age of 21. So I'm fine with him being a designated player unless we can find a better young designated player. He wasn't completely bad, but he was invisible. I didn't think about him at all. And that's not a good thing for a designated player to be. So, I don't know. It reeks of like Baruch type stuff with just like signing a designated player and hoping that they're going to be good and then it's not. at this point in time, in terms of the history of Fire designated players, I would say that even Anangano is a better designated player than Aleseda was this past season.
Jiggly,
Because
you
at
just
least
convinced
Anangano
me.
did something.
You just convinced me to knock his score lower for me, 4.5.
I wouldn't rate him very low, but in terms of like the gravity of his position, the gravity of like the fact that he is our third designated player and he's supposed to be this young player that we're going to try to build around, because you cannot say that they're not going to try that they weren't trying to build around him, because he's in a very pivotal position. He is a designated player. They were going to plan to build around him, but now that plan might be just broken at this point. So it's very much a thing of, I don't know. In terms of the way he played, I'd give him a 6 or a 5 because he was just invisible. I didn't think about him at all when we were on the pitch. I didn't think he was a non-factor. And then when you add in how much weight his position takes, I guess, yeah, you would drop him down a bit further then.
Yeah, listen, you gotta hit your winger DPs.
You have to.
You have to. And
That
like,
same money could be outlaid on like a Mueller.
Exactly.
Or
a guy like Diego Rossi, who's Uruguayan, also very young. We've seen what he's been able to do with LAFC. And we also saw what a guy like Jesus Medina, for NYCFC, guy they really valued as a young DP, he's been terrible. And you need to hit, because if you hit, it's going to be great for your team.
The big thing with the way that I think Vicky and Heights are running the team that I don't think we're thinking about too much is they're just going to take a lot of risks and see what happens. I think that's the big thing. That's the reason why a team like FC Basel was able to work for them, because it has the ability to have a large roster. And so if a player does not work out, then, they're just not going to work out and they're not going to be on there. But in MLS, you have limited roster space. You have a salary cap, you have like roster slots, and all of these different mechanisms that makes it hard to play the game of MLS. The game of MLS is not the same as the game of European soccer.
Jiggly, you're making me nervous. You're making me nervous about Wiki and Heights, and to be honest, that was another red flag I had of them. Like you said,
I was nervous about.
This isn't Basel. They don't have the safety net of having such a large team or a youth team and all these things. There are all these mechanisms that are up against them that they have to figure out how to navigate. And to me, they're not doing well. They didn't do well in their first season. In fact, they did really, really, really poorly. And yeah, maybe there's ideas for hope. But you get into another reason for my red flag is we've kind of danced around it. But 2 out of these 3 DPs, we haven't gotten to the third DP yet. But maybe I'm gonna reveal what I already think of them here. But 2 out of the DPs that these guys signed are just not worthy. And obviously to me that's Nacho and Jimenez. Beric to me may be debatably the one DP that's worthy of the DP tag. But 2 out of these 3 DPs that these guys signed are just not worthy of the DP tag. Gaston Jimenez, it does not blow my doors off, nor does he blow the doors off this league in any capacity whatsoever. Nacho Alessada does not blow the doors off this league in any capacity whatsoever. Imagine Arjun Robin for that same out there in that wing. Even though he's 38 years old, he could tear up this league. That's money well spent. That's money that could actually get you somewhere because he's got the quality to go in and wreck these people. Alessada does not. Jimenez does not have the quality to go in and wreck MLS. Yes, he has the quality to go in and be very good in MLS, but there's a lot of really good players in MLS. He's not DP worthy, and that's another big red flag on this coaching staff and general management that I've seen develop over this last season. Now they are going to have another season of development that we're going to see, hopefully, barring any crazy negotiations with the CBA and the force majeure clause. Check out our last video for any stuff about that, learning about the force majeure clause that MLS wants to invoke, potentially changing the CBA again. But I'm not impressed with what I've seen.
I think that's an interesting point, just, hopping onto the Heights point. He's going to have to learn really quickly how to build a roster that's sustainable in MLS. And some of the players he's brought in are going to be good for that, and some, in my opinion, like Aleseda, are going to be a player that, Heights values a lot, but just doesn't fit into the league. And that's, a skill that a new technical director coming into the league doesn't have. And on top of that, he also doesn't utilize the actual players within the league. I don't think he's made one, internal MLS signing. And when you have a roster that's so limited in space,
Who
you
signed
can't
CJ?
afford to have a roster.
Who signed CJ?
Say again?
Who signed CJ?
CJ isn't signed yet.
CJ was Pano.
Okay, yeah, but that CJ to me was a great idea, like a good move. Oh, he American, bring him in.
Well,
don't have to use an international spot. Also, capable MLS player. Like, yeah, we don't see him making those types of moves.
The other thing, though, is that when you think about international slots, this is why I was worried early on. But now, after like Heights basically saying, "Oh yeah, we got 7 players that are about to get green cards," I'm okay with it now.
Wait, doesn't that reek of Enrod though? Oh yeah, we don't have to worry about international slots.
No,
Yeah.
Listen, I don't value that as
when
much
he said that, when Nelson says we don't have to worry about it, he's more, oh, just don't think about it. Heights specifically said 6 to 7 players are getting their green cards. Frankowski just got his green card. This is very interesting to watch, and I hope that he is exactly right. The things that reek of Nelson are actually in league. Yeah, I think that's Matt over there. But the thing with Nelson is that he was the guy who would make in-league moves. Dax was a Nelson move.
Mm-hmm.
CJ was a Nelson move. Bornstein was a Nelson move. So, technically speaking, what are you saying, that you want Nelson back?
Wow. Is Nelson a better GM than Heights?
No.
Everybody in the chat,
I'm using
what do
it
you guys think?
as the exact opposite of what I tried.
Wait. Okay. Here's my one issue with that. Also, did you guys comment? Is something wrong with my mic? Am I vibrating or something?
Yeah, we were just hitting some reverb.
Oh,
yeah, we got an echo.
Oh, still
cleared up, I think.
Okay,
Nope,
good.
no,
Let me know if that comes back.
Sometimes, we'll see.
Let me know if it is a really big issue. I'll you know what? Let me just hop back in.
Yeah, we'll monitor.
It's fine because I'm loud.
By the way, everybody, we'll take a moment here. If everybody in the chat or watching live or after the fact could just take a moment and smash that like button for Jiggly and Matt joining us today. Thanks for taking the time here on this just about to be a new year to talk some Chicago Fire stuff with us and bringing us some Chicago Fire content. We greatly appreciate you guys joining the show and greatly appreciate the support we get from all of you guys. Thanks for taking a moment to smash that like button for us and letting us know we're doing good work. Or hit the dislike button. Let us know how you feel. Don't be shy. Also, if you could help hit that subscribe button as we smash our way up to 300 subscribers and break down that glass wall, we would greatly appreciate it. It's awesome. Helps fan the flames of Chicago Fire soccer. And we also talk, NISA. We talk about the new Peter Wilt NISA team here. We talk MLS news. We talk all sorts of stuff.
And when I show up, there's always mention of the NWSL.
Oh, I was talking NWSL in one of my last 2 videos too with the Malpew trade. I would say this, Jiggly. Get this: who made the biggest soccer signing in the league the last 2 years? The Red Stars of the Fire. It's Malpew, right?
Well, I mean, of the last 2 years, that would bring Kerr into the equation.
If we go through the last 3 or 4 years of soccer, the 3 biggest signings in Chicago are Kerr, Schweinsteiger, and Pugh.
Well, that's not a signing, that's a trade.
So, I'm just saying, those are the 3 biggest acquisitions to Chicago soccer, and 2 of the 3 are made by Chicago Red Stars. What does that tell you about? And also,
I'd say
Bastian Schweinsteiger no longer with the team of the Chicago Fire. How does that tell you for ambition?
I think that it means that the 2 teams have are in very different places because the Red Stars are a win now team, and the Fire are clearly not. The Red Stars have been competing for a while, and the Fire have not. And I think that it just shows that the 2 teams are in different places. And so you get big name players when you're close to the end of your road, when you're close to that championship. That's when you get those big name players. I don't think the Fire are there yet. I think that the Red Stars are. And yeah, that's just what they're doing. I could have more things to say about that, but let's make sure that we can get to Collier before Matt.
Oh yeah, definitely. Matt, are you back?
We could. Oh yeah. Also, am I good? Can you hear me?
Yes, you're sounding good.
Great. Can I just one more little tiny bit I want to say before I log? About the 6 or 7 players on international spots. I think that's great, but that's just gonna give Heights permission to go out and get like 5 or 6 more international players that have no league experience. So I think he needs to better utilize the trade market that he has in the league. because if you have such a limited roster, you can't afford to have each year basically just be 5 or 6 completely new guys to the league in if you want to be a consistent contender over time. That's all I had to say. Glad
Great
to know
points.
I'm no more echo.
No, great points. Wow. Okay, we're about to dig into a very maybe a sore spot for a lot of people. Georgie Mihailovich gets a 7.5, despite being out of favor with the new coaching staff early in the year. He was clearly out of favor during the MLS's back tournament. Georgie seems to have a lot more freedom in his game under Wiki. It isn't a coincidence that the fluidity in the attack was noticeably better when he was in the starting lineup. He finished the season with 7 assists. I believe that was like second in the league. After Pozuelo, and his chemistry with Robert Baric, he might have been tied with a whole bunch of other players as well. His chemistry with Robert Baric was fantastic. Outside of Madron, he's perhaps the most creative player the Fire have in terms of range of passing and overall vision. Absolutely. His passing was fantastic. He has some English league passing in him. I saw that out of Dax once or twice too. If he can remain healthy, he'll be an integral player in this team's attacking unit. Not true anymore. Maybe he'll be an integral player for Montreal's attacking unit. Pleasantly surprised him with how effective it was in a wide position as opposed to his normal central role. Yes, it must be said, Georgie performed admirably out in the wing and in the central mid position. Definitely agree with that. Only gripe is his work ethic defensively. 7.5, 2 goals, 7 assists for Georgie Mihailovich.
I'll start off by saying, in terms of his trade to Montreal, I'm very indifferent on it. Granted, he was, 7 assists in 14 games is good, especially because a lot of those came off of sub appearances. And he did produce a lot compared to namestay starters like Herbers or even Seda. But at the end of the day, he's off the field. He's had some issues with various members of the old reign and the new reign. There's always been speculation that he's going to leave. I think off the fact that he's gone, granted he is, Harry Ship 2.0, so to speak, is just going to be kind of one of those, all right, that saga's over. Let's move on. We'll find a way to replace his production. And also, if you look at how much that Montreal is paying him as opposed to what we're paying him, that's $600K more for a guy who Wiki's not even guaranteed to start. And so, at the end of the day, if he's not in your plans, I guess that's fine. But
great points.
Don't pay $700K for a starter who's only going to start half the time. That's the way I look at it.
Mm-hmm.
When people
on the other end, I love homegrown, so I'm sad he's gone.
That's what I was about to talk about. When people talk about how sad it is that Georgie was traded away, I want to compare things to you for Georgie versus when Ship was traded away and who they were. I think because you could say that they played pretty much the same exact position. And Ship was a leader. I was saying that he was supposed to get the armband that season. I think that he looked prepped to be the captain that season. Going, I think it was the 2016 to 2017 season. He looked like the guy to get the armband with just the way that he presented himself and the way that he worked around. I think I talked to him like a couple weeks before he was traded or something. But Ship was supposed to be that guy. He was that homegrown guy. He felt like one of us. Georgie never felt like one of us. Let's be honest.
My brother played with Ship.
If you're going to talk about him as a homegrown player, as, oh, it's so sad to see one of us leave. No, I knew people who were like his friends growing up, and I still didn't feel like he was one of us, So it's one of those things that's just, I don't care very much. And I didn't rate him as much as most people too, because in that first game, I thought he played very poorly against Seattle. But he got the assist. So, I mean, hey, everybody likes him. He was there at the right spot at the right time. And that's a very similar thing with with Herbers, what I was saying, which was if you gave him enough chances, he was going to do something. And I didn't think he did well on the wings. I thought that he kept trying to go to the middle. I thought he looked like he kept trying to be in the center of the pitch. And he just ended up there a lot of times when he shouldn't have been. There were a couple of moments where, and I think it was like the New England match, where he was too far wide, and that allowed New England to score. It was either that or it was the Seattle game. I can't think of that very well, but that's a long time ago. But it's just there were some specific things that people kept talking about, like, oh, Georgie's doing well, Georgie's doing well. I just didn't see that. And I think it's better for his career to not be on the Fire anymore. And anybody who is mourning the loss of Georgie Mihailovich, that I don't know what to say to you guys. I don't think you're right.
I do. His career should be hopefully improved from here.
Yeah.
He's gonna be with a coach, and has a contract that's gonna put pressure on him that he has to start and get the playing time that he's so deserving, that he thinks he's deserving of. So hopefully, upward and onwards, and we could root for him being a Chicago kid. So that's what I think we can do. We'll root for Georgie. Hopefully he keeps getting better and better and better. Hopefully he makes us regret the trade, because that's even better, kind of, right? That means like, oh, he did great, and maybe one day he comes back if he gets really, really great. Also, we got a couple people in the live chat checking in. Peter saying Aleseda contributed very little. I really hope he can kick on next year, but there really doesn't seem to be a lot there. I think you were pretty even-handed, maybe even a touch generous. Great listen so far. Thank you, by the way. Thank you, Peter. Everybody, thank you for your support. Greatly appreciate it. Greatly appreciate if you could smash that like button for us and consider subscribing to Spitting Fire as we smash our way up to 300 subscribers. That's awesome. Helps spread the fans and flames of Chicago, of soccer in Chicago. I can agree in loving this so far, saying content, please. Peter saying his best period, let's see, Georgie, his best period was probably his last 10 or so matches. 700K is way too much for a guy who could easily disappear again. I debate this. Georgie, you guys think he disappeared a lot? I think that the team kind of disappeared around him. He was kind of the guy that just showed up a lot, in my opinion.
Yeah, I mean, he had a very quiet 2 goals, 7 assists. I don't know if that means he disappeared, but I don't ever really remember him contributing as much as his stats say. So he's just such an interesting player. I don't think he ever really disappeared on the team. I just think 700K is too much money for a guy who's not guaranteed to play a ton of games.
I remember hearing something like when he had first signed, I heard something from one of his friends about like, oh, he had like a ton of Adidas incentives, like all of these other things in his contract. So like, I feel like he was definitely getting overpaid. I think I said in part 1 that I was waiting for Pineda to sign for the Fire, not Georgie. Georgie was the guy that I expected to go to college, and he didn't. I was expecting Pineda to sign out of high school and Georgie to go to college. Opposite happened. And I remember hearing a ton of stuff about like, oh man, like when they went to Munich for the Basti game, like Basti was trying to shop him around to Munich. Munich was interested, and he just never went. That's the thing. There may have been other reasons. I know that like I think Tyra said something about like, oh, there's stuff about like his nationality and all that and passport stuff. But at the end of the day, we kept hearing stuff about, oh, Europe wants him. Some team in Europe wants him, and he never went.
Yep. Yeah, Werder Bremen was interested, like Frankfurt was interested. There were several suitors, but yeah, it is really weird how he never ended up, in the Europe landscape with all those rumors going on, and now he's on Montreal. And for some reason, I feel like he's going to do a classic Chicago sports thing, is being traded and then, like developing into something better than he was. So, I think we can root for him, but we'll see if that gamble is worth it.
I gotta say, he's put
Benson, big Cedric Benson vibes.
Georgie Mihailovich has positioned himself to be able to potentially move to Europe within the next 2 seasons by moving to Montreal. His chances to get to Europe have improved. He's under Thierry Henry. There's first connection to Europe. And just that international attention that he's going to get from having Thierry Henry be his coach, and if he happens to be one of his more productive guys that he's leaning on throughout this coming season, that's going to be huge for Georgie Mihailovich's him moving on. Basically.
Absolutely, and Henry really wanted him. Like he really wanted him, so that shows that he's going to get a lot more first team minutes. Plus, they're paying him $700K or however much money they're paying him. So
speaking of which,
type of salary, go ahead. Sorry.
No, you can finish your thought, and I'll ask you a question about that.
From a Montreal standpoint, he's definitely going to be a starting 11 guy. So it'll be cool to see if he's able to produce for them.
The question was from Peter though that 700K, what are we going to spend that hypothetical money on? If the Fire got 800K in GAM and potentially another 200K, what's that money being set aside for, if anything?
No, that's a fantastic point. And like I was saying earlier, Heights need to utilize those funds because we've garnered a ton of money from the Dax deal. We used some of it on CJ back in 2018 or whenever we got CJ. But we've gotten a lot of TAM and JAM and funny money to spend on good quality players inside the league. And I'm not really sure if that could convert somehow to international funds.
Jars of it stored underneath Nelson's desk right now.
Exactly. That's the rumor. And Heights needs to figure out what to do with that and bring in some players who know the league, provide a veteran presence, Matt Beasler, that can help this team, take that next level into playoff contending.
Do you guys want to move on to CJ, who will be missed, in my opinion? CJ garners a 5.5 here. Hard to evaluate this year for Sapong, given the number of games he missed due to injuries and personal matters. Yes, he has had a baby. Outside of their strong performance against DC United, he never seemed to reach the form he was in last season. It was evident that he lacked the technical sharpness when he featured. All in all, tough to see him go at the end of the season. Yeah, he just didn't get in enough to be super effective. When he was in, he was okay, but wasn't super.
I have such little thoughts about how Sapong played because he didn't play that much. I think that it's honestly
4 games started.
I wish that he played more, but he didn't.
2 goals,
and so
4
if he
games
didn't
started.
play that much.
Yeah, this came down to this was another salary issue. Like CJ's getting paid a ton of money to ride the bench and not start. And obviously, Wiki and Heights weren't a fan of, or Heights specifically were not a fan of having those big bucks on the bench, so they traded Georgie and Sapong away. Now, I'm okay with not bringing Sapong back if you're able to bring in a replacement, which as of now they think they did with Ofori.
Right.
Whether or not he's going to be an upgrade, we have to wait and see. But I can't judge this. Yeah, don't get me wrong. CJ, great fan favorite. Everyone loves CJ. I love CJ. Great guy. But I understand why they chose not to bring him back, especially if he's not going to be a starter. Because I do think he's a fringe starter, and I don't think he can afford to be a bench striker just solely because his salary's so high. And with such a restricted budget, you need to take that into consideration. And if Ofori is able to jump into a spot and produce a lot of goals for us, either in a starting position or off the bench, I'll be okay with it. If not, I see value in keeping a guy like that on the team.
Yeah, I don't really have much else to say. We can move on. The next player, I have a lot of things to say, and I want to make sure that Matt's here to hear me.
All right. Yeah, Matt doesn't have too much time left, so let's dig into Elliot Collier, the New Zealand Gazelle.
God.
Go ahead, Jiggly. I'm listening.
He got a 3. 2 games started, 1 assist. And also sometimes looked threatening, but a 3. I don't know if I agree with that 3. Maybe a 4? No. Maybe a 3. Maybe it is a 3.
That's a 2 for me.
But according to them, he's not an MLS player, plain and simple. He will be back next season. He provides nothing. At 6'4", he can't head the ball. He is slow. He can't pass. He can't finish. The only thing keeping him from being rated lower is that he isn't afraid to go at people on the dribble, even if it is the same step over every single time. His contract is a low cap hit, but you're telling me you can't find someone better within the league or even nearly obsolete MLS Super Draft? That's their assessment.
So I will say,
before I let Jiggly go, the fact he's not slow. The dude's got pace for a 6'4" who's like 75% leg. He's definitely not slow. He's just not good. Sorry, go Jiggly. I'm listening.
So recently I had to explain to somebody else about Elliot Collier because I was explaining I made like an anime joke to somebody who doesn't know soccer. They knew anime though, and I had to explain to him who the heck Elliot Collier was. And the thing is there is no comparison in any sport to what Elliot Collier is to the Fire, because there's just no way to explain. You guys understand what I'm saying though, right? There's no like tangible comparison for like how Fire fans feel about Collier when they see him. So I just wrote, drafted in the 3rd round of the 2018 MLS draft out of Loyola Chicago. Nobody expected any of that. The MLS draft is now only 2 rounds because the last 2 rounds have been so trash the past few years. So he was drafted in a round of the draft that does not exist anymore. He made his debut in March of his rookie season in Minnesota. I was there at that game. It was an away game. He scored. And then since then, he has amassed a total of 37 appearances and 11 starts. He has not scored a single goal since his debut. He is a striker. His job is to score goals. He does not do it. And I find this, it's just hilarious. But the thing is that throughout the season, obviously, we all hate seeing him get put onto the pitch. It's just this entire joke now. But the thing is that he plays hard. He plays harder than everybody else on the pitch. And that scares me. It scares me that the hardest worker on our team is Elliot Collier. If you really truly paid attention to like the effort that all these guys are giving, Collier gives like more than himself. He plays above his head every single game, which isn't much because his head, he may be tall, but he is not tall in terms of quality. So he plays very much above his head in terms of what he can do. He can't do much. He's the best Elliot Collier he can be. He is better than the best Elliot Collier he can be. But Elliot Collier is just not good enough. And I find it fascinating. It's just this it's a fascinating thing to watch, and why he's still playing, why he's still on the team, why we didn't dump him, why we gave him a new contract. Why? And he is the second longest serving player on the team.
Oh my God, he
He's
could be
probably
captain
the
soon.
worst on the roster. No, I would agree with that assessment. He's not an MLS player. He's, like James said about someone earlier, he's a start, like a not a starting 11, starting 18, starting 30 level player, if that. He's USL championship quality. But
he played amazing in the USL.
Yeah, for Memphis. But you're right. His work ethic is stupid good. Now, that gets into the trouble sometimes because he wants to attack 4 defenders and he's not nimble enough to do it, which is great. It's quite, quality entertainment for us. But also, he was our primary attacking sub off the bench.
Primary.
So, yes, Sapong was there, but he was doing his own thing half the season. So it's Elliot Collier as your backup, winger striker option. When you're put in a situation like that, you're bound to fail. Okay, you're just bound to fail. And I don't know why he got a new contract. But I think with the signings of Afori and maybe putting Frankie on the bench or something like that, he'll be able to take a much bigger backseat, a backseat that he needs to take because he's just not good.
And that's what I was saying with it terrifies me that he is the hardest working player on the pitch because there are good players out there and they're not playing as hard as him. That scares me. I want the entire team to be playing as hard as Elliot Collier, or at least I almost hope that Elliot Collier doesn't play that hard because it just makes everybody look bad because he's not good, but he's playing harder. He shows more heart than everybody else on the pitch. And it scares me and it's fascinating. And I don't, there is no number grade I can give this man. There's no grade that I can give to Collier because in terms of how good he was, in terms of comparing himself to himself in comparison to his skills, he got a 10 out of 10 this year. He did great this year in terms of it being an Elliot Collier year. In terms of in general, I don't know. It's definitely low. It's very low. He takes stupid shots. He doesn't really do much of anything. He just does a lot of it.
I would have loved it if we just got to kind of watch him from afar while he was playing at Indy 11.
I really
He's such an Indy 11 guy, let me tell you that.
I just just watching him run around. Just the moment that I gave up on the season was the moment that I began to love Elliot Collier. It's just I just loved watching. There's our boy. There's our man. He's coming out on the pitch and look at him go.
Well, I got a positive thing here. Robert Baric, 8.5. I know Matt's about to take off here very shortly. I wanted to get his rating on Robert Barrage. Getting rated as an 8.5. Chicago Fire Player of the Year, nominee for the Newcomer of the Year in MLS. Possibly deservedly so. 12 goals in 23 games is a good haul for a first-year striker. Not bad. Constantly puts himself in great scoring positions. He can score with both feet as well as head. He can hold up. He has strong hold up play. He was an obvious stitch in the side for defenders, and that with the number of fouls he was drawing all season long. And if MLS plays a normal length next season, maybe he scores more goals and gets better service from those out around him. And maybe he could hit 20 goals in 2021 with more games.
Yeah. Robert Barrich, I think 8.5 is a little too high.
7.5?
7.58. He was very quality. Obviously finished second in Golden Boot, tied with Jesse Zardes, maybe someone, I can't remember who. Regardless, he's good, and also take into account he didn't score till like 5 games in. So if you disregard that, that's 12 goals in what, like 17, 16 games, which that's a lot better. Obviously, I don't need to say that's a lot better. You guys know that. But nominee for Newcomer of the Year, deservedly so. It's true. He played well. Is he a significant upgrade from Nico? That's the question that a lot of people love to throw around. My personal opinion, he's actually a lot more similar to Nico than people give him credit for. He's a dog in the box. He's just trying to get that last touch. But what separates him from Nico is his ability to hold up the ball, which we saw so much throughout the season. If that's able to actually produce into something beneficial for the attack, then I'll feel comfortable saying that he's a more well-rounded striker than Nico. But I actually see a lot more similarities in him than a lot of people give him credit for. He's a good striker. He's got a pretty good work ethic. Now, I want to see what he's able to do once again when you surround him with wingers that are really good at their job. Like I said, Sekulic, who, in my opinion, not a great crosser. Frankowski, meh. Aleseda, if he's trying to cross from that left side, he has no left foot. He's always cutting it in the middle. Feed him service in the box and let him go to work. And I think he could get a 20 goal season, 25 goal season. Let him go to work. You just need to surround him with pieces. And that also comes down to having an attacking mid, which you don't have right now. You had Georgie, who had a really good connection to Beric, actually. Probably majority of his assists were to Beric. But you need to help him get the ball in the box and he'll go to work. And he's a good striker. I'm happy with Beric.
Rossi with 14 goals led the league. Giassi Zardes, Raul Ruidiaz, and Robert Beric all with 12.
And that's really good to see because Giassi Zardes was on the team that won MLS Cup. Raul Ruidiaz was on the team the runner-up of MLS Cup, and LAFC was in the CONCACAF Champions League final. These are good teams, and he's up there with the best strikers in the league. And these guys are having all the production that we need Beric to get. Diego Rossi as Carlos Vela, Giassi Zardes as Lucas Zelleron, and Raul Ruidiaz as Lodero and Morris feeding him balls. And Robert Beric was able to stay up with them with guys like Fabian Herbers and Frankowski. You give him a couple extra guys, he'll be able to take the next step, and I think he's easily a Golden Boot contender.
Georgie Mihailovich tied for 4th in the league with assists, by the way.
I think that with that whole thing of like all of these other teams are doing better, the thing with the Fire is that I said this in the first half, which was just they were so confusing. I don't understand. They played the exact same way every single game, but got very, very wildly different results. So you know how we got we won 4-0 and then we'd lose big. So it's I don't know what exactly that
lose
says
big
about
to
anything.
an MLS third string goalkeeper too.
Yeah. So I don't know exactly what that says about anything, but what I do know is that Beric getting goals, the Fire scored a lot of goals. We also scored a lot of goals in single games, and then we didn't score goals at all in other games. And that's the big thing with this team is just consistency, and I don't understand how to differentiate it. And so when it comes to Beric being a big goal scorer, you're going to expect that out of a team that's scoring a lot of goals. But with just in general on this team. It's just I don't know what this team wants anymore. What this team is anymore. We don't really look to have a plan. I think that when it comes to the comparison of Nico and Beric, Nico was a good striker. Beric is a good forward. Nico was a poacher. He pushed forward all the time. Beric is a good forward. He can play at the tip, but he's going to be playing there.
I like that.
That's good. I think what's really interesting about recent Fire teams, going back to like when Blanco left, was we've always had issues finishing in the box, or just finishing in general. And that trend is continuing with this team, with obviously Frankowski and Seda had some misses, and even Beric did too. So it's going to be really interesting to see what happens if we're able to solve that. Are we able to solve that? Probably not. Like, this is just always an issue Fire teams have. But if we're able to convert, half of what we put on target that should have gone in the first place, we'll see Beric not only be at the top of the Golden Boot standings, but we'll probably even see the Fire in the playoffs.
Beric definitely developed into a bright spot. I was a little sour on him. I was happy he signed. I was excited when he signed, but the first few games I soured on him a little bit. And then, as his Content Please pointed out, I think a great comment, he started very slow, but once he picked up steam, he couldn't be slowed down. And then he started to prove everybody wrong who was naysaying in the beginning. I had to eat crow on Beric, absolutely. And he looks like one of the brighter spots on this team that was not a good team. He looks like he could be a producer for a good team.
Absolutely. And on that note, I will have to say my goodbye.
Any final thoughts before you leave?
Listen, this team has good pieces. It's an unfinished puzzle. There's a few more they need. And then it's going to be about how quickly they can mesh and how quickly they could win game. If they're able to do that quick enough, you could see the Fire in the playoffs next year. I truly think that they have the talent to do it. Like I said, though, you need a few more pieces. It just comes down to wiki decision making. Is he going to be, a coach that values inexperience, international players over, veteran MLS players who may or may not be as talented? It's going to come down to that. And I'm looking forward to see what goes on, because this is a really interesting roster filled with really interesting players. And some are going to hit and some are not going to hit. And I think Fire fans aren't really prepared for what's going to happen. It's going to be a mess. I can't wait for it. Chaos. But that is, being a Chicago Fire supporter. So love it when change it for the world. And looking forward to 2021.
Absolutely. Happy New Year.
Yeah, Happy New Year to you guys too. Always a pleasure talking to you. Thank you, chat, for participating. James, thank you for being a host, and Jiggly, thank you for all your anime references.
Thank you, Matt. Thank you for joining us, Matt. Thank you. Have a great one. Happy New Year. Thanks for joining us. I'll have MenInRed's just stuff and his Twitter stuff in the description as always. Thank you, brother. Have a great one, man.
Have a good one, guys. Take care.
Take care. All right, so I think we wrapped up Robert Beric. We got basically the last players, according to this, did not eclipse 300 minutes. And that's a player like Wyatt Olmsburg, who rumor has it, was just not really good enough for MLS.
Just not. He isn't. He's another guy who I remember from draft stuff. He's fine. He's not good. He's fine.
Shouldn't be relying on him.
Like, in that draft, he was the best center back in that draft, I think. But he's fine. He's not good.
But according to this, surprisingly impressed in both of his starts of the year.
He shouldn't be expected to be performing like that, though. Mm-hmm. He shouldn't be. He's one of those guys that we just sort of have left over, and it's just like, well, I mean, we got to play somebody at center back. We'll throw him in.
Him or Campbell? Would you rather have?
I would rather have Campbell. Absolutely.
Okay. Let us know in the chat below. Content Please saying very average. That's about it.
Exceedingly average.
Exceedingly average. Well, hey, average still. See, here's the thing. Average this year got us 11th place in an extended playoff format. That's when I'm like beating that drum. I'm like, we weren't good enough. Brant Bronico, and maybe these are some of the reasons why. Brant Bronico with 3 games played, fan favorite. You know he never will quit on the team. Great locker room guy, and will always push people to compete in training. Absolutely. Solid depth piece if they plan to keep him, which they don't. He's moved on to Charlotte FC.
Yeah, it's fine. I would have rather have kept him around just as like, when we compare with everybody comparing about like, you know, the ship trade to the Georgie trade, I'd rather compare the Georgie trade to the Bronico situation, where I would rather have Bronico around because he seems like just a good guy to have as long as you don't pay him too much. And I think that the problem is that they did pay him too much right before Pauno left. They paid him a bit too much. And you can't keep him around if he's not going to be playing that much. So I would rather have him, but I can understand not having him.
And maybe he gets into a better situation over in Charlotte FC too. Similar to Georgie getting into maybe a better situation up in Montreal. Content please saying we should have kept Brant. I loved him and his work ethic. Absolutely agree. Just seems like a nice guy. It would have been nice to keep him, but I love Brant. But once again, this comes back to the idea of like, this is a player who's been here for a while on a team that for a while has just not been good enough. And sometimes like, you have to move on from those players as much as it hurts. It becomes more of a business decision more than a heart decision. Because it's a heart decision, it's easy. You keep him. You make him the captain. That's the type of guy. He pushes everybody to be better. He's great with the media. He's great with fans. He's great with everything. He's awesome. You just wish that the talent was a couple echelons higher so he could, be more of a Dax McCarty than a John Baccaro, right? More of an MLS veteran than someone trying to catch on and maybe not being able to so far yet. But love what I see out of Brant Bronico. Absolutely fan favorite. It stinks to see him go, but from a team perspective, trying to get the team better, that level that he put you at is maybe with him gone, maybe you're able to get to a higher caliber of player and help the team get that much better. It stinks. Business decision. Sad to see him go. Johan Kappelhoff, another person to me who fits that into that category, but I like Brant a bit more. But Johan, very much, very similar. 2 games started, longest tenure Fire player on the current roster, and if healthy, does he improve this team's back line? I don't think so.
I think he does, but at the same time, I don't expect him to be doing anything else anymore.
Who's better? Who's better healthy, Calvo or Kappelhoff?
Kappelhoff. I mean, Calvo on his best day, but Kappelhoff if you want consistency.
That brings up a great point, because I think if we think of Kappelhoff 3 years ago, yes. I think if we think about Kappelhoff the last 2 years, I don't know if that's the case. He's been part of, Jiggly, like it or not, he's been part of some of the worst defenses in the league. But
who do they have behind them?
That's the great point, right? Who is behind them?
I don't. So if you're
Jorge Bava,
goals scored. If you're just looking at goals scored, obviously the Fire are going to look trash because we got Kung Fu Kenny in the back.
They don't look that terrible sometimes, but just they don't pass the eye test a lot of the time defensively.
And I think that there's also a lot of moments where it's a right back issue. When we were trying to play with 4 in the back when it was Sopano. Right back was terrible. We had Bronico starting at right back against Seattle at the beginning of the season. He was terrible there, and I didn't like that.
Fill in a gap, very much so.
So I would like to have Kappelhoff. I don't expect Kappelhoff to be coming back.
Do you think he's traded? Is what content is asking?
I think he's being traded. There's been discussions about him being traded. I think we already figured that out by the fact that he was healthy and he decided to be in the Netherlands. I don't think he expects to. I don't think he expects to be back. So it's just he's a nice guy. I don't really think he's much of a vocal leader in the locker room. That's why he's not. That's the big reason why he's not captain, despite being the longest tenured player. He's not a big personality. He just does his job.
Agreed.
He clocks in, clocks out. So I think that it's just
you need those types of guys, but
you need those types of guys. But we can. we can do better, and I think it's time
Yeah.
for him to move on.
Yeah, you
It's
might be
not
right.
it's not even that we can do it's not even that we can do better. It's just I think it is time for us to move on for the sake of his career as well. Same thing. There was the same thing with Georgie. It's just for the
Hey,
sake of their career,
if
we need
if
to move on.
if Georg Heitz can go out and pull off another Johan Kappelhoff of his own, that would be great, right? To bring in, maybe person looks a little questionable for a European League, but comes over here and just becomes pretty darn solid. And
I just want Maya Yoshida.
you want your Yoshida? We would take a look at him in the last episode, by the way, in part 1 of the 2020 player ratings with Men in Red and Jiggly. Great show.
I want Maya Yoshida, Shinji Kagawa. Let's do this.
Shinji. That'd be awesome.
Get in the box, Shinji.
Michael Azira did not
I don't
get
have
rated.
thoughts about him at all.
This
I
was
don't have
well.
thoughts.
Hear this then. The author Lee Gualado wrote, "I actually thought Azira deserved more minutes this year. Primarily late in the games when they needed to secure a lead or overload the midfield, he was solid in his lone start, but he's just not getting any younger. Best of luck to him in his rest of his career." Yeah,
I had no thoughts on him whatsoever.
I think that's I guess that's about as accurate as you can get from a guy you saw 125 minutes played from.
I think that his charity work is amazing.
Yes.
I have no thoughts about him on the
Good
pitch.
shout out. Shout out to Michael Azira's charity work. He is awesome. He did some great work. Take a look at his Twitter. Follow him on there. Great follow. Doing some great stuff. Luka Stojanovic, another guy that of this list. Now, most of this list we're not expecting much out of. Luka Stojanovic next year, we might hopefully can maybe expect a little bit more than one game started, 60 minutes played in a severe injury.
Yeah, I think that he looked fine. We didn't get to see much of him. I think we saw more of him in preseason, though. We did see enough of him in the preseason to say something. I think he's fine. I think that he needed to settle in, and he didn't get the chance to because he had an injury and was out for months. So I think that's something to be looking forward to next season. I know that there's a lot of other people who rate him even higher than me. I don't really know. I don't know enough, but I do know that he's going to do something at least. I don't expect a lot from him, but I think he'll be fine. I think that going forward, he could be fine. Trading the 10 spot with hopefully, a DP 10. That's the thing. I don't think that Stojanovic is going to be that 10. And it depends on if Madron is going to stick around or not. If Madron leaves, I could see Stojanovic be playing in that 8 spot instead of Madron.
Good point.
So it's just, he's fine. I think we just got to wait and see if he can produce the way that we all are hyping him up to produce.
Next player here, Brian Gutierrez, a bit of a victim of third sub syndrome with 6 games played and 27 minutes from those 6 games. They got the 6-man in NBA, but third sub here, 6 games, 27 minutes played. Needs more minutes. Would rather have seen him over Collier in every possible occasion. We didn't. Wouldn't be surprised to see a loan deal next season. He appears to be ahead of the other young homegrowns with development.
Yeah, I'm a bit confused about why he's the highest starting. Obviously Pineda's in a class of his own, and
right.
Georgie's been playing for a while, but I'm surprised that Gutierrez is on that level of homegrown player is the one that's getting the most minutes. I don't really know much about him. Of course, all I know about the academy, I know from my dad because I don't pay attention to that. It's very hard to find stuff, and I do other things.
Right.
But I never really heard much about him. He's fine. I would like to see him get a loan deal instead. I think I didn't really see much of him during the preseason either, so it's just, whatever. He's there. Cap
was Content's favorite player on the team. Heartbreaking to see him get so injured. We mentioned that we do think he's going to be traded. We got to see a little bit more, maybe just a little more gameplay for a game tape for Brian Gutierrez, because I can't really recall much. He got out there. He was out there. 27 minutes. That's more than a lot of other players on bench. Throughout young players throughout the MLS. So pretty. Don't know if he's the next Georgie Mihailovich, but we shall see.
He's the next Gutjar.
Jeremiah Gutjar, who also
he's the next to that one.
Gutjar is not even on this list.
because he didn't play.
There you go. Andre Reynolds the second.
He didn't play.
Andre Reynolds the second here. 2 games played, 60 minutes. Came on impressed to close
Dre? Okay, here's the thing about Dre is that everybody wants to see Dre play.
The potential's there.
Is that it's not even just because of like, all of like, Blackfires was really into it. I think that the rest of the fan base was really into it, but it's just that it's a position that we knew that like it wasn't being played very well. It was a position that we were like, oh, it didn't, Navarro wasn't looking very good, and we wanted to make sure that Bornstein didn't break himself, didn't break a hip out there. So I think that Reynolds needed to play, and we just didn't play him. And the thing is that he proved himself already. He was the best player on the pitch when the Fire played against Cruz Azul. Like, I don't understand how he was on the pitch for it wasn't a very good Fire team, but it was like a half decent Fire team that had Schweinsteiger out there. And the best player on the pitch was Dre, who it was his first game ever.
Yeah, he might have to look for a new situation.
So that that's why I'm so confused about why he didn't play, because he looked good when he played. And the fact that he didn't get playing time and he didn't even get loaned out. Obviously, they wanted to keep him around because, he's a good option off the bench, but he's not getting any playing time. So then it's pointless.
And content saying, should have sent Brian Gutierrez and Andre Reynolds to Madison. Let them get some game time development there.
For
Chris Brady.
That was the biggest thing that I needed to say about Dre. I don't know if you have anything to add to that, but I do want to talk about Chris Brady next.
No, go for it. He's not on this list. Chris Brady, though, was USL 1 Goalkeeper of the Year, Young Goalkeeper of the Year, something like that.
Chris Brady is the proudest thing that we have at Sad Boys because of just how nobody expected anything out of him.
Sad Boys FC, by the way, is Jiggly's podcast.
My podcast with Adnan and RJ. All three of us former Hot Time writers. I think RJ might still
subscribe.
Be Hot Time. I don't ask him about that. I don't ask anybody about anything that they do anymore. We just do that. I just saw a random thing, a random GIF at the bottom of the page.
Oh God, it threw you up.
Yeah, it threw me off so much. The whole thing about Brady was that it was a very quiet news week for the Fire, and it was just like this half thrown in at the end, like, oh yeah, we signed this guy Chris Brady, and he has the most generic name, Chris Brady, and we just started riffing off of that. We found out he's from Naperville, and of course, the other co-hosts on Sad Boys have some thoughts about Naperville, and just everything. We just started making fun of everything around Chris Brady, and then at the end, we were like, yeah, and he's probably going to become the greatest soccer player in the world, and we did not expect this to happen. And
Clip it.
Was a beautiful moment. It was beautiful.
Go back and clip it. Get that tweeted out. That's great.
And we invited Chris Brady onto the podcast multiple times throughout that rant. It was just, we were all tired and just laughing so much about the fact that it's such a generic name. And this guy, he was one of the best. He almost had enough shutouts to be goalkeeper of the year in the USL, and he played half a season.
Yeah.
He came in late. They had a good goalkeeper already, and then they let Brady play, and he was amazing.
That was the concern, that he wasn't even going to play over their goalkeeper because the goalkeeper was already quite decent.
So, right. I don't know. You start him.
Content, please, saying Chris Brady did very well when I watched. Moni played when he played. Sadly, didn't do anything special, and when Alan played, he did well to me. But I wish he played more.
So yeah, Chris Brady is the next Gianluigi Buffon, and he starts his humble beginnings is just being absolutely made fun of on the Sad Boys podcast.
Champions League and Chris Brady's future. That'd be awesome. Carlos Taran, or Taran, depending on how you want to pronounce it. 2 games played this season. He only arrived really late in the season. I'm excited to see what this guy could do next season. Mid-season acquisition, only available for a handful of games. Can't tell much from the 2 games he was there, but certainly has the giant throw-in FIFA trait.
He was fine.
He was fine. 14 minutes. That's not a lot of. He was fine.
I will wait. I will wait on saying anything.
I love it. I think that's gonna wrap this up, unless we take a quick look at these Andrew Tarbell, Andrew Putna, and Cordy Cropper, goalkeepers that are available. Jiggly.
No, none of them.
None. No Putna. No Cropper.
Nope.
Defenders: Hassan Nadam, Eric Zavaleta, or Elvis Powell.
The thing about it is that I like Zavaleta and I like Powell.
I was thinking about Zavaleta.
But I don't think we have position for them. That's the thing. The thing about the Fire is that we are very good on paper. On paper, we should be a much better team than what we are. We only need on paper, we only need a couple more spots to fill. But in practice, this is such a confusing team. Why have I staked my career on talking about this team? Like it's this team. Why have I decided that this team is what I'm going to analyze when the fact that they're just like they're inscrutable. There's no way to analyze this team. We play the same exact way every single game, and yet something different happens. It's the opposite of the definition of insanity. The whole thing about like you doing the same thing, expecting different results, except it actually happens. Different results actually happen by doing the same thing for this team. I don't get it. Bizarre. Is it on the other team? Insanity. Is it? Yeah.
Star of the Fire's past few years is content.
It's just I don't what this team wants to do anymore, and we don't seem to have a plan. And the cat woke up, and I just don't understand. I think I don't know what in-league acquisition we need. I just don't know.
I don't know if there is one acquisition that puts this team over the edge at all.
Or even the type of acquisition we need.
Elvis Powell was a two-way fullback, regular starter for Portland during their MLS Cup winning season.
I know that guy.
I did not know. Andrew Carlton available. Exciting talent, despite his lack of discipline and trouble with things we've heard. Kakuta.
No, he's not.
Yeah. What exciting talent you're saying? He's not.
No, he's not.
Yeah, no. Kakuta Mane is available, and Ben Mines.
I like Kakuta Mane as like a solid, super sub striker. But the thing is that we kind of already have that if we're gonna have Offor. So it's just, I don't know.
More of the same.
Yeah, basically, Kakuta Mane is like similar brand to Sapong, but like not as charismatic.
Maybe as his green card.
Mane is like if Sapong and Kai Kamara were like Pepsi and Coke, Kakuta Mane is RC Cola.
Yikes. I like RC though.
Chicago
likes RC Cola, so maybe that's a match. Maybe
it is a match, but it's just like we already got that, and it's like it's not much of an improvement. If we want to get somebody within the league, we'd have to trade for them. If we want to get somebody who's going to improve this team within this league, we're going to have to trade for them, unless it's Beasler. Beasler is the only player that I can think of that is just like sort of out there.
Immediate upgrade. Will Trapp, 27, Fatay Alash.
Wait, Will Trapp is available?
Will Trapp's available. Fatay Alash, Diego Fagundes, Valeri Kazashvili, and Kevin Molino.
Okay, so those are some interesting names that I just heard. Fagundes, Trapp, and there's something like between Alashi and...
Kazashvili is Valeri Kazashvili. Vako... I might be butchering.
Okay, no, I didn't hear it. I just heard Trapp again. I just heard you say Trapp again. But Will Trapp
and Molino,
I like him. Will Trapp and Fagundes are two very good players. I'm surprised that they're apparently not involved with any other team. But the thing is that
content saying isn't Trapp going to Minnesota? So this might be some of this might be old.
This feels very, very outdated.
Let's see how old this is. This was posted 2 weeks ago, so it's not super old.
I think that
I read he was going somewhere though. Content says
the thing with Will Trapp is that he's a holding midfielder, and we already got we got Pineda.
Yeah,
Gaston?
Wouldn't he be an upgrade on Gaston Jimenez? More of a traditional CDM.
No, I don't think he would be an upgrade in terms of just like I would rather have our designated player Gaston playing.
Mm-hmm.
I would rather have our international player Gaston playing. So it's just I don't know. That's kind of what I'm getting into with. It's hard to really think about any player that we can get that
Juan,
will improve us.
Juan Agudelo
because
and Rubio Rubin round out the list.
Agudelo is fine. I don't know about Rubio Rubin.
Agudelo would be
I
a
don't know
great
what they're
sub to
talking
bring
about.
in, wouldn't it?
Yeah, there's just so much more. It's just I don't know. I don't see.
Jiggly, what do you think of this? Nisa2 Chicago tweeting this out. MLS is something to which I could never attach. What I need is a league with values I match. Why do I care for a team with no name? They haven't even played yet a single game. A soccer club who cares is all I ask. Lo and behold, I received this here mask. From Chicago Nisa. Do you think that they're going to represent any type of threat to MLS or Chicago Fire?
I think they're gonna. I think anybody who says, "Oh, it's gonna," this team poses a threat. You know, the Red Stars pose a threat. The whatever. No, I don't think, and I don't say that in like in a way that's like they don't pose a threat because they can't, because they shouldn't pose a threat. It's the idea of they can work together. It's fine to work together. You're not in the same league.
That would be, yeah. You don't have to have the adversarial approach, I guess. You're right.
Yeah.
And not to mention, what if you had an in-house, a team where you could go see Brant Bronico play and go dominate and then wonder what could be up in MLS?
Yeah. I feel like we've slowed down, and this always happens when I'm on a podcast.
Yeah, we're slowing down, but I think we're getting out to shut it down here, everybody. Thanks for everybody in the chat. Content, please. Peter, Margaret, everybody joining us after the fact. Everybody, appreciate it. Thanks for your support. Greatly appreciate you taking the time. And Happy New Year to all. Please consider subscribing to Spitting Fire YT. Greatly appreciate your subscription. Helps spread the fire to Chicagoland and the world beyond. Consider giving us a like. Smash that like button. Hit that dislike button. I'll have Jiggly's links in the description, as well as MenInRed's. You can always check out Jiggly on his podcast.
We're planning on doing it, on saving it for a little while, revamping the logo. Hopefully, I don't know. I'm in charge of doing that, and I don't know if I'm going to do that. Sad Boys FC, guys.
Sad Boys FC is on. It'll be on its way. Undergoing some reconstruction for 2021
for season 2.
So look forward to that. As always, follow Jiggly on Twitter. He's got great articles too. One of the better writers out there. As far as opinions go, Jiggly. Not to toot your horn, but it's always great when you put your work out there. And just because, the Fire needs some of this pressure. They need that flame to their feet sometimes. And I feel that sometimes they don't get it. But when, people like you, and people like Brian Sandel are writing, it helps put the pressure to them. It helps, push them on to bigger and better things, I think.
I mean, just in terms of the way that I write, just the shout out to Sean Spence, who was my editor-in-chief for a while at Hot Time. Was basically his thing that he told all of us was basically, I'm sorry, I got distracted real bad.
I love to get Sean on the show here.
I got a cat in my room.
Oh, the kitty.
But his thing was, write like a fan, essentially. If you aren't writing for a national publication, if you're not writing for, newspaper, it's okay to write like a fan. And that's always my approach in writing about it. And it's just fans are disappointed by this.
Yeah.
And this is what fans talk about.
And you're just being honest about it. That's what I really like about it and appreciate it. By the way, content, please saying adios. Enjoyed it very much. Thank you, everybody, for enjoying the show. Greatly appreciate it. But I absolutely agree there, Jigs. I mean, we're opening up another can of worms here. I think we're going to start putting the pin in there. Jiggly, any final thoughts do you want to break down?
Not really. I'm scared of the Red Star season. I'm scared of the Fire season.
The Red Star season, though, isn't nearly as at risk, is it, with their CBA issues?
No, not about that. about like if they do play anyway, I'm gonna be scared about the Fire. I'm gonna be scared about the Red Stars with just like the way that the teams look.
Did the Red Stars disappoint last year by not winning it?
It was weird. Everything about that was weird. There were a lot of players that disappointed, and it felt like the Red Stars kind of failed their way upwards.
It did feel like they disappointed a little bit. I remember being a little bummed. I'm like, oh, they should have won.
Yeah, there's a lot of stuff. I'm just scared about everything. I'm going to stick with anime.
All right. That sounds fun. Yeah, everybody, have fun. Have a safe New Year, everybody. Happy New Year. Catch us in the next, we'll catch you next one, 2021. As always, doing our best to provide you with some awesome Chicago Fire content and MLS soccer stuff here on Spitting Fire YT. Please consider subscribing today. It'd be awesome if we earned your subscription on our way up to 300. Smash that like button. Helps get this video out to other Chicago Fire fans. And hit that dislike button if you want. Let us know how you feel. We don't mind. We love to hear it either way. We don't mind the interaction. If you have anything that to want to say, comment below. As always, we love to hear your interjections and your thoughts. We'll catch you guys next time on Spitting Fire YT. Happy New Year. Later, everybody. Have a great one. Thanks, everybody, for joining us. We'll see you guys next time. Almost. Boom.